Welcome to the Rusted Garden Homestead. In today's Friday morning ramblings, again, it's Saturday, I just want to talk about your success. I am proud, really in a way, each time I see new gardeners come out and say, hey, I just got started in the garden. And especially when people are older, 65, 70, which I don't consider older now because I'm 54, but to really be starting something new. And I guess that's my point. Like the garden, life is meant more to be lived, and you want your garden to thrive, and I want people to thrive too. That's why I do all these garden videos, to help your gardens thrive, help provide activities for people to do. We don't want to just exist. You don't want your garden just to get by. So, and that's enough on the philosophical stuff. But I am proud of everything that people are accomplishing and people that really decide to start something new. So today's video is really about taking time to appreciate our successes. You have to do that. You have to go and look through the garden and not just count everything that went wrong. Count the things that you did well, the things that started out one way, went another way, but you've adapted, and the plants turned out, they produced, they gave you food. So let's walk around. I'm just going to let you know what I'm doing for the late fall and winter. This is the best time to really sit back and reflect on how you want to have a better garden next year. In this space, this was, I think 8 17-gallon metal pots. I don't know if some of you may have seen them and remember that. They were okay. They were hard to water. The plants weren't really thriving. They weren't taking off. I could get them, growing and stuff. So I decided to pull them out, move those containers somewhere else where it's easier to water. I'll grow something else in there. And I dropped in these 150, 100-gallon fabric pots. This is going to be a series on my other channel for brand new gardeners, so people can grow along as I grow. But most importantly, this gives me one space, the right amount of soil to have a garden that I think is going to do well. As we cross over, you see that is ginger. Just shot a video on that. That's all going to get potted up today, actually. I'm going to be growing some of that indoors. As we come over here, actually in the back there, those are radishes. I'm letting them go to seed. For years, I struggled with growing radishes, and in my area, I had to adapt. And for whatever reason, it turned out giving them less nitrogen, less fertilizer, and I've been getting great radishes for years now. Right in here is broccoli. This is obviously, it's middle of November, so this is fall broccoli. I think there's a head right down there. This is getting up to size, and this again also took me years. I was trying to grow broccoli, cauliflower, these cool weather heading crops in our springs here in Maryland, and no matter when I really started them, the heat would come in, the heads wouldn't finish forming, they would begin to flower, and it just didn't work out. So now I start these seeds somewhere in August, get some in ground in September, later September. 90 days, these should be really nice looking broccoli heads. Took me years to figure that out. Another thing, and when I'm doing videos nowadays, I've been taking less time in trying to make this look perfect, because it's not realistic. I don't want to convey to each of you that everything always looks perfect here. So I leave trash laying around for days till I get to it and clean it up. But that was another thing. I used to put a lot of pressure on myself that I had to finish everything, that day or the next day. And it's not true. You can see, weed it out. I'm starting to clear out this area, transform this area over. I'm just doing it at my own pace, a little bit each day. And I'll be working my way down that way. You can see in that space, that's not cleared out yet. The weeds aren't going to do anything in the winter, so no need to put pressure on myself to have it look perfect and be perfect, because it becomes discouraging. You can easily get overwhelmed and you're like, it's too overwhelming. I don't want to go out there. I don't want to take care of anything. So I kind of work, I've said this in a lot of videos, kind of backwards. This is a space I've been working on, and I just take the time to look back and see what I've taken care of, and that I'm making progress. So another thing I tend to do, each year I get a little bit better at it, is look at this. So I left the gate open again, and those were sunflowers that were beautiful, and that means a deer came in and chewed them down. They all over here too. So I was getting a second round of sunflowers this late November, just because they reseeded themselves. Anyway, so I would grow so many transplants in January, February that I would start tucking plants all over the place and the garden would get a little bit disorganized. So next year, I'm cutting back the amount of tomatoes, the peppers. I'm going to be planting more vegetables that I haven't grown before. And I'm going to really try and transform this now into year 3 into a full type of a homestead garden. It'll still be a teaching garden, but I want to be able to get food out of here for 8 months and then have enough that I can use for a whole year. It's going to be a bit of a challenge, but I just have to recognize that I can't go and just start tucking things all over the place. And then, you know, for instance, those are beets, spinach, arugula. That's nice and organized. But then you go to the other side, there's more beets, more lettuce, radishes over there. It takes more time to take care of stuff that way. Put your like vegetables in a similar space, a little bit easier to take care of stuff. Also practicing what I preach. I just did a video on using leaves to set up your bed. So I want to work more efficiently, you know. So leaves are going down here, covering the beds, gonna let nature and worms do the work. And next year, I won't even have to turn these beds except for maybe the digging and transplant holes. And my garden's set up and ready to go. Also cutting back my use on purchased organic products. I'll be doing a video on setting up this space using wood ash, leaves, and fresh cut grass. And that's how I've been really managing my tomatoes for the last couple of years, doing a little bit of experimenting. Yeah, doing a little experimenting on it. Wood ash is great stuff. And you don't want to overuse it because it's a lot of carbon in there. I mean, a lot of calcium carbonate in there. So it has a high pH level. But sprinkling a 1/4 inch of wood ash across here provides calcium, phosphorus for your tomatoes. Tomatoes are surface root feeders, so there's lots of surface roots. That's all going to get to the plants in here, and they're always healthy. I rarely get blossom end rot. My tomatoes really produce, and I'm not spending a fortune on feeding and taking care of them. For redesign purposes, and that's something you can do now too, and or maybe add to it. Not even redesign, but you know, bring in things that you've never tried before, like maybe cattle panels. So with a real specific redesign, I like these raised beds right in here. This is where I grew my ginger. I'm going to set up something to warm the soil up. But having this cattle panel arch is nice, but not next to, I think these are muscadine grapes or muscadines. Too much is going on. And then I have a fig back there that's going to grow out this way. So I really packed too much into this space. So I'm probably going to pull out this cattle panel, put it somewhere else. Feel free to give yourself permission to say, hey, this failed, didn't like it for this reason, and go out and just change it over. Here are those 17-gallon metal containers I was talking about. They're all going in to this space. It'll be a lot easier for me to come and water my containers over here. And then when you come into this section, I have a container space over here. This stuff has been sitting here for 3 weeks now. I did a video on it. Let me walk over to an experiment I'm doing with what's on the bottom here. There's the alfalfa pellets. And just a quick recap. When you're buying your bagged granular fertilizer like that, you're paying anywhere from, you know, $8, $12, $15 for 3 pounds, 5 pounds, or even more. You're spending a lot of money. That granular organic has to break down on your soil surface anyway. That's why it's a slow release. It's really, really expensive. If you get these bags, that's beet pellets. I think that was like 15 a bag. Underneath of that, it's a 40-pound bag of alfalfa pellets. That was about $15 too, give or take a couple of dollars. Let me show you what I'm doing with that. Actually, I'm gonna cut and just walk right over to there. So like our gardens, as people, we want to thrive in life. We want to learn, we want to do more. We don't want to just exist and get by. That's kind of that feeling of you wake up, you know, get ready, you eat breakfast, you sit down, you watch TV, you rinse, you repeat. That's a way to live, exist, but it's not thriving, you know. We want to thrive. And my point is, I love experimenting. These are my compost tumblers, and mixed right in here is a combination of alfalfa pellets and wood pellets. And this is about 8-10 days in. This is heated up. It's breaking down. I'm making my own compost using those products at a fraction of the cost of buying that granular fertilizer in those bags, and it's going to be just as good. Here's some that's older. Whoops. And it's looking pretty nice. You know, so I'm still learning at this point on how to better my garden, and it's a lot of fun. So I encourage you to experiment, get your brain working. Failures are just as good for your brain as success when it comes to thinking and planning and trying out different things. Other thing is thinking you have to know everything before you get started. This is just a bin, 4 feet by 4 feet, have a video on it, putting in all of my leaves that I'm chopping up with the mower right now. This will be gold. If we let it break down for about a year, it'll be an outstanding compost. Not super high in NP and K, but gives value to your garden, you know, even without high numbers in that. Also will be a great mulch in 5 months, 6 months, so there's so many different ways to use it. This will benefit your worms and microbiology. Worms will come, eat this, leave castings behind. You know, it's just a great way to use what's free and not have to spend any money. This is a section that is also an experiment. You may have seen me do a little bit on it. This is where I'm growing mushrooms, and I've never done it before. You know, I have somebody helping me. I think if you watch the video, you saw somebody named Jewel. She's very smart in the world of mushrooms, has helped me kind of set this up, and we'll be doing videos in the spring just showing you how things are going. And if you look in here, you can see the mycelium. The mushrooms are taking hold, and that's the whole goal. You can also see that rabbits or squirrels are digging in there. It's a lot of fun, you know, just experiment, try something new. In this space, I'm growing garlic. Just drop down my extra cloves, let it grow there. Let's see what happens, you know. It'll definitely be usable. Also growing mushrooms in front of where I keep my kayaks. This is actually a bale of hay in here covered with wood chips, so we'll see how that goes. And most importantly, take the time to look at your success, give yourself credit. Let's get my shadow out of there. Give yourself credit and be proud of what you've accomplished. Here's my last experiment, which I really like. This is turnip greens, radishes, spinach, broccoli rabe, kohlrabi, and this is deer central right here. You saw they went into my garden when I left the gate open. This is an alternative to fencing. It's just black rope, some bells. Maybe the deer hate all this stuff, but I would have thought they would have poked their head in here and chewed all this down, but deer aren't able to see really close up. So they bump into this, they hear these sounds. I think that it spooks them, and I did that by doing a lot of reading. Anyway, you know, this all grew from seed. Nothing is chewed down. Maybe I'm onto something. And the reason I designed this is I didn't want a fence showing up when I'm sitting down at my gazebo or in different places of my yard right here. So it's hard to see this black string that goes across here. So maybe it'll work. Maybe I'm just lucky. Anyway, hope you take from this video to give yourself credit. Think about experimenting, think about redesign, and just have a lot of fun in your garden. Thanks for watching, and please check out my seed shop at therustedgarden.com.